The standoff, which again, we don't know whether it's political or military or some other kind of standoff, it seems that there may have to be some kind of escalation to some higher bodies. So those are the three phases, the queuing, the remote viewing session itself, and the analysis. So now I want to talk about what we've seen for the US election stuff within an example of using all these three phases. So for phase one, the queue that we established was the United States of America / next presidential election. And all of these words have been tested over time. The concept of the United States of America is well understood. Next is well understood. Presidential is well understood. And the word election has been tested. And the matrix seems to recognize it as both the campaign, the day of voting, and a little bit afterwards. I was the project manager for this. My point in doing this was not to look at who's going to win. My point was to look at the whole story and like, were there going to be any surprises kind of in the general area surrounding the election, any either October surprises or any anything that we're not kind of expecting to see that can kind of leap out and cause problems within society. So yeah, so the queue was established, and then we did the remote viewing session itself. This was done with three professional grade military remote viewers. One of them worked this session before Joe Biden resigned, and I believe before Trump was shot. And two of them worked the queue after those two events. Within the US election data, we saw a large running story going on of a kind of a standoff within a building. I'm not exactly sure what kind of standoff it is, and I'm not exactly sure what kind of building it is, but it's almost as if someone in office doesn't seem to want to leave as a result of this election. There's a barrier around this place, and there seems to be some kind of standoff. Again, we don't know whether it's military or political or some kind of thing. The two round circles typically depict either an individual or a group of individuals. Here, we don't really know. In TRV, you're not supposed to be drawing full fledged looking body shapes. That comes in stage 6. If you start doing that in stage 3 here, you can get a little bit of what's called AOL, which is analytical overlay, and your imagination can start running away with you. In this stage of S3 drawing, you tend to want to keep to a wireframe look. Very bare bones, and then in the site template, you fit the data as to where you think things belong. At a very basic wireframe type of thing, this is a squarish structure. You only get right angles in human-built structures. You don't get any right angles in nature. So if I was drawing the Grand Canyon, for example, you may see a lot of squiggly stuff, but you'd never see a right angle. So this is obviously a building with two life forms or two groups of life forms in there doing what we have no idea without the data, which we're not looking at right at the second. And there's some round, shapy things just above them that could be all kinds of things. It could be projectiles. It could be references to words people are talking about. It could be energy, could be light, could be all kinds of things. We don't know really what that's saying. The curvy stuff with that kind of the lines going out indicates that there's maybe some significant energetic situation going on there, either noise or an explosion or loudness or references to some kind of large, loud argument kind of concept. Again, we don't really know. The arrow pointing in is indicating fundamentally that someone or some entity is entering in here or kind of has the intention.
You've got 3 diagonal strokes to the left and to the right, lower right.
Those are just indicating that this physical structure is thick in some capacity.
Okay.
And in the foreground, we're seeing something natural. There's some kind of like lawn or grass or forest or something going on here in the foreground.
The dots usually represent people, don't they? And when they're accumulative like that.
The dots, oh, that certainly could be the case. Yeah, there could be a crowd of people trying to come in here.
Life forms.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, they could be insects for all I know, but however, related to the actual data that was here, it's more like, there are individuals in here and they're trying to basically get inside of this kind of structure. This was really the same topic from a slightly different perspective. So it's almost like the idea that something wants to come in here to drive that round thing in the middle out. The thing in the middle, again, could be one life form, could be a group, basically. The shapes above are indicating that this is an open area kind of above it, probably sky. The arrow there is indicating that it's quite a wide kind of situation. It's almost like a compound or some kind of concept like that. And again, we have this square structure with kind of grass or foresty type stuff in the forefront. And the whole idea is that something wants something that's inside to move outside. So it's
Wow.
again this kind of standoff. Now, this was related to the same idea with the standoff, which again, we don't know whether it's political or military or some other kind of standoff. It seems that there may have to be some kind of escalation to some higher body. So the standoff, which again, we don't know whether it's political or military or some other kind of standoff, it seems that there may have to be some kind of escalation to some higher body. So it could be that this is a Congress type place, a court type place, something like that, in which in the foreground there are three life forms or groups of life forms that are having significant discussions back and forth. So this is like we have to escalate this to another body, basically, kind of idea. It could be that these discussions are going on in parallel. It could be that they've deferred it and escalated it, but we don't fully know at this point. Again, with remote viewing, you can investigate things ad nauseum. It's really just a question of where you want to spend your resources. And so when I defined what I wanted to know out of this project, I was looking at some of the ideas around what was going on. I wasn't trying to predict who was going to win exactly. This is related to more follow-on. One of the other running stories we got within this US presidential election session was this idea that there may be some sort of financial collapse going on, not so much in conjunction with the election, but was going to become possibly a story within this. The stage 6 reveals a person standing at great distance away from several structures that are in stages of collapsing, one after another, causing a domino effect on the next structure to fall apart. There are concepts of this person is looking, perceiving, and noticing while forecasting and predicting what is playing out in front of them. These buildings are structured traditional businesses in society that are collapsing under its own weight and are falling as well. This is a domino effect of a tumultuous falling down and falling next. This whole idea is like, it's very similar to the financial collapse of 2008 kind of idea. And you can see the diagram expresses that quite well.
So just to be clear, this is not a literal depiction of buildings collapsing. This is a symbolic depiction of
Yes.
financial destruction.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly, and that was one of the questions that I asked on the conference call when we were discussing this. Yeah, so it's not like a 9/11 type idea. It's more like a 2008 financial domino collapse, kind of like what we saw with Lehman Brothers and AIG and all that stuff.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Yeah, and that's all I can say there. Yeah, so within the data, we also saw concepts of people doing ceremonial type stuff, pomp and pageantry type stuff, and relating to giving speeches and things like that. Now, that's not a surprise to anyone because this is all about the U.S. election. So you're going to get that kind of thing. And so within remote viewing, you're going to get a lot of data that's obvious, to a lot of people. Still, our remote viewers were completely blind to the target, so it is not the refreshing is not the right word, but it's comforting to know that they're constantly hitting the target with stuff that's definitely going to be there. So this target is a life form. They're a person. They seem to be showing something. They're moving around in a deliberate fashion. They're swaying back and forth, moving fast and slow. They're sweating. They're focused, exhilarated, and concentrating. This occurs within a certain place, a defined area. There's a boundary defining a container area for this display. It is a stage. It was constructed for the purpose of something like a ceremony. There are feelings of excitement and celebratory about this. And the remote viewer finds the the situation curious. In talking with our team member here, he thought this was actually possibly some of the story of the Democratic National Convention that he was capturing in this, because that's part of the story of what is captured within the targeting queue of what is an election. Yeah, so that was nice to see that he got that. And if you look at the next, it's even more compelling. This is an S6 drawing face of the team member, and it looks very much like Kamala Harris, really, really quite uncanny. And again, he was completely blind to this, so it's really something that stuck out. And so I'm not saying that Kamala Harris is going to win the election. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that she came up in this session as part of the story, basically. So again, within this session, I was looking at other things that were maybe going to be black swan events or happening as October surprises, kind of in and around the election period, things we might not be expecting. Yeah, so this remote viewer also depicted this kind of situation here. There's a stage kind of area in the background, and this is very much kind of like almost like I mean, he's got a banquet hall down below a village pathway. It's almost like he's depicting either inauguration day or maybe part of the voting day or something like that. But anyway, he was totally dead on target here. So the place is described as spacious and seems inviting to me, while also being exclusive. There are feelings of camaraderie here, while I feel welcome as a guest. This place seems to be mostly made of wood. There is a stage or display area. There is another separated place like a rotunda that is used for elections and serious banter, as well as discussions and the sharing of ideas. Yeah, so again, with remote viewing, you get things that are banal all the time. You get things that are supposed to be there, and then occasionally you get surprises. And I was looking for the surprises. That was the data. We got a lot of data, and then we proceed into the analysis phase. And so really the analysis here, it was so much data, I'm still doing it. So with the case of the Beirut explosion, I was able to postulate that within a matter of a couple of hours. And in this case, I'm still working on this, so it's been weeks of analysis. So analysis phase can take as much time as you've got. And from a project management point of view, you have to kind of decide how much time you want to give to this phase as well. So what can we tell for sure that we're actually seeing within this next presidential election story? We're seeing a lot of ceremonial stuff on stages in public. That's not a surprise. That's going to happen in any kind of election, so that wasn't surprising, but that came out in the data quite clearly. We see a lot of surveillance of an investigation of the public, of political competitors, and of the economy using technology. And this may be as a way to either influence the outcome or to maybe manage the outcome after the fact as to the results of the election. And so you know, this is not a surprise to us. We've already seen this kind of stuff with Google and with big data, but there's going to be a lot of that as well. We might not see it all, but we kind of know it's there. That's very much all throughout our data very strongly. And so this suggests a pretty nasty campaign involving a lot of, you know, big tech surveillance and or manipulation.